This is the Healy Brothers Podcast.
So we got Lou. Welcome to the Healy Pod. I got my cousin Brian, myself, Jay Healy. So Mr. Lou Roselli, our general manager at WS Healy Chevrolet. Let's start with, just give us a little background on yourself, how long you've worked here.
How deep do you want to go?
Yeah, so I mean, we can go as deep as you want. So let's just start with a little background on yourself, how you got into the business, and then how your journey to where we are now, because you are a partner at our WS Healy Chevrolet store as well. So.
Okay, let's see. Started pumping gas when I was 14 years old. Got into, self-taught myself the detail business and bodywork business. And then bought my first new car, and the place I bought the car from said, hey, you'd be pretty good at selling cars. And who was actually the general manager of this store many years ago, and taught me, pretty much was my mentor, and started selling cars from there on in. Then that store ended up closing up, and then they moved over back to WS, and was begging to come work for him one more time, and finally had the opportunity to work for Healy, but not for him. I had to go to Beacon, because at the time I was living in Mahwah, and I had to drive 52 miles every day for probably good 10 years because I wanted to work for the Healy family, because I heard such good things about them, and wanted to work for them.
And that's back in the day without social media.
Yes, sir. Yep. And I first started selling cars with your dad.
Oh boy.
Your dad was on the floor with me, and it's funny because I didn't even know he was the owner's son first couple of weeks, and then finally I found out his last name was Healy. I go, whoa, this guy's pretty cool. But I never forget him saying to me, he goes, hey, just be yourself, just sell cars, take care of customers, just do the right thing for customers. And I was like, God, I love this place, and that was it. Started in 1989.
Wow. Yeah. So, and how old were you then?
27. Your dad was dating your mom at the time. I was dating my wife at the time, and your dad got married that June. I got married that October. So we all grew up together. God, I sold cars for, I don't know, a good 7 to 10 years. And then John Kerner came on. John was working with us a couple years, and then John became the sales manager. And we worked great together. We had a great team. And what's so great about working for Healy's is, sometimes you don't know your own talents. People see other things in you that you don't see within yourself. And, with the support of your dad, and believe it or not, John was a great mentor. They pushed me along. I said, hey, you're going to be good at doing this. You should do this. And I was like, oh, okay, let me try that. So I was backup F&I manager for quite a few years, and then selling sales manager for a few years. And then I became complete sales manager for I don't know how many years.
And that was still at Beacon, or?
Yeah.
That was still Beacon.
And just to clarify, that's our other Healy Chevrolet store across where, which now is in Poughkeepsie. Right. And that's where I always forget you started over there.
Yeah, there was only 2 stores at the time. It was this store, which was in Goshen, and Beacon, which was but your dad ran that store. And then the opportunity came up in 2000 to come work for Paul, Brian's dad, and reluctantly I came. Your dad convinced me to. He says, "Hey, it's a good move. We need you to come over to help out the WS store." And I came over here in 2000 as a sales manager, and then a GSM, and just slowly worked with his dad. And his dad's like, "Listen, I just love your passion, your enthusiasm, and I'm going to teach you everything I know." And you're talking to a guy that barely made it through high school, but just had the passion and the enthusiasm and the support from the Healy family. And, John was very instrumental in that as well, but pushed me along to say, hey, this is what you're going to do, and you're good at it. I want you to keep doing what you're doing. And here we are, 35 years later. And I became partner in 2010.
When did you become GM? Wait, when you moved back over here, it was still in Goshen. So what was that? That was 2000?
That was in 2000. Okay. Yeah, so it was still the 2 Chevy stores, and then we did have the Ford Lincoln store, which was in Goshen.
We had Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep.
Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, and then we had Hyundai as well.
Eagle and Isuzu back then. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And then you had the Hyundai store. At that time, we probably still had the Hyundai store
White
in...
Plains? White Plains?
No,
What was it?
And now,
Not White Plains.
Mount Kisco.
Mount Kisco.
Yep.
I always get those. They're
Yep.
close. I always get them
Yep.
confused.
Yeah, that store was.
and then we sold that store.
Yeah. I was there with my dad when
It's a tough
he was
spot.
closing that one up.
That was not so good.
So you became partner in 2010?
2010.
And then GM, what year though?
2007, 6, 7.
So that journey from 1989, the patience, the perseverance, like throughout that time, that's a long time. That's a great career. So as you were going along, like, did you have it mapped out in your head? When you were talking to, it was kind of just like, hey, I'm just gonna keep doing the right thing over and over again.
Just doing the right thing over and over again. My loyalty to the family and the direction from your dad, Brian's dad, and John. They're like, not that I wanted this position. They're like, this is what you're gonna do, and that's the greatest thing for working for this company, is having that push in that direction. And again, somebody seeing something in yourself that you don't see, that they see it, and they mentor you, they push you to do that. And again, here I am. His dad one day walked downstairs and says, "I want you to be partner." I was like, really? He goes, "Yep, you're gonna do this because I want you to do it."
When did that happen? And
That was it started in 2007, 2008. But that's when things
wasn't the greatest years for anyone in on.
No, and his dad he says to me, he goes, "I don't want you to do this right now. We're gonna hold off for a couple of years," and which he did, But again, I trust the family, That's.
So what was that feeling like? No, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, so 2010, so that's when I graduated college. So
That's when I graduated high school.
so I thought that you had been the GM for a little bit before that.
I could have.
Maybe, I don't know. Yeah.
The thing is, I was never one for titles. Never. I don't care. Some people think a name means something. To me, it's the leadership that goes behind it, because people will respect the person, not the position. If I wanted to be named general manager, that's great. You want to call me, a floor sweeper, I don't care. The thing is, I know the job that needs to get done, and that's what I'm going to do. And that's.
And there's a leader at every rank, no matter your job title. You always see that whether it's in the lot or salesperson, service advisor. There's always that leader, and you know who that person is by their charisma and how they carry themselves and how they act every day.
Yeah.
So that feeling of becoming partner, what was that like, and how was that process?
It was different. And the reason why I'm saying it's different, because some people are like, "Oh, now you're a partner. Does that make things different?" I go, "No, I don't run it any different than I did the last 25 years. I didn't. It's just, you mortgage your house and you go, okay, I make the right decision, right? But again, the trust in the family and saying, hey, you know what? This is a good thing for you to do. And that's what I did.
Yeah, you were going to say something, Brian?
I'm just thinking, I know that you say that the title means nothing, and GM, whatever, owner, whatever, except when you have that one customer that says, "I want to speak to the owner," and that's when Lou Roselli goes, "Well, I'm the owner." You got to flip the chair around.
Yeah, I had one customer one time actually challenge me. I go, "Do you want me to see my K1 or my partnership papers?" She goes, "Your name's not Healy." I go, "It still ends in a vowel."
That's a good one. That's a good one.
But no.
So that's a serious journey. I mean, for anyone to look into that, I mean, it's possible. It's possible. You said you barely got through high school, figured it out, became disciplined, dedicated, loyalty. It's all mixed in there.
Passion and enthusiasm. It's funny. I'll tell you a quick story. Talk about, coming from nothing. One day I'm sitting in my office and I see one of the detail guys walking past my office, right? And I hear him talking to somebody and he goes, "I'm just a detailer." And I go, "What'd you just say?" And he goes, "I'm just a detailer. What's the big difference?" I go, "Come in my office for a second. Do you know where I came from?" He goes, "No." I go, "Just give me an idea. What do you think I did?" And he goes, "Oh, you probably went to college for 4 years and everything else and blah, blah, blah." I go, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah." And I go, "I barely made it through high school. And do you know what I started as? As a detailer." And he goes, "What?" I said, "Yeah, as a detailer. I was buffing cars at a different place, had passion about the automotive business, wanted to be in the car business, started selling cars, hard work, enthusiasm, passion in there. And here I am." And he goes, "What, really?" I said, "Yeah." So don't say that you're just a detailer, because anybody can do what they want with the passion and enthusiasm and the support that they can get.
Especially in an industry like the car dealerships. Yeah. You know, it just
Did you show him the scrapbook
the
after that?
passion and good
Prove
what
it?
you do.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's right.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I was like amazed by that thing.
Yeah.
And also like there's certain positions in a dealership where some people don't think are important. Half of them are what the customer sees when they leave or see the vehicle, like simple things or how cleanliness the store is. That matters to that customer more than anyone knows, and it frustrates me. Like, hey, it's just this, but like you're just a detailer, but you're
Everything falls apart.
You're the customer's first impression. You're how they look at their car after service or something like that. So it matters, and every little thing matters. So let's break down the general manager role. Partnership's phenomenal, but now this is where the nitty gritty comes in. So that role, as you migrated into it, and you came from more of a sales background rather than service, but you have one of the most successful service departments we have in our whole group. So how does that everyday job, what goes into it, and how were you able to fit yourself into it to really understand and grasp the whole big image now? Because it's a lot of responsibility.
Yeah, I leaned on his dad a lot. Because I want to go to dealer school, and he goes, no, you don't. He goes, I'm going to teach you everything I know, and you just be patient and just listen. And honestly, that was really hands-on, just self-teaching myself and asking him questions.
And learning from your mistakes and all that.
And it's just, that's all of it, you know? It's just listening to his dad and your dad and John, and, you know, there's such a wealth of knowledge there. That's how you learn.
So how'd you start learning service so well? Just by trial and error?
Just being down there, just listening, watching, you know, and seeing the things that are right. You know, they always say in the car business, you're either a numbers person or you're a people and process person. I'm a people and process.
Well, that's why the brothers work out so well. Yeah, it makes sense. So that responsibility, like what was that like to take that on? Because now you can kind of control how the store operates. You affect the bottom line, how it stays running, how you pay all these salary. I mean, you have a lot of employees here. What do you have? How many employees do you have? 70?
We have 80 now, 79 or 80, yeah.
So, like, what emphasis do you put into that? Because it's a lot of weight. Like, there's good years, bad years, and all that.
Well, the thing is, you always got to put yourself in the customer's shoes, right? And that's how I always see it every day. You know, I sit there and I look and I go, all right, how long is that customer sitting outside waiting in line for their service to get their car checked in? You know, where's everybody? Let's get all our people lined up. Let's go. You got to, you know, assemble teams to get in there and start checking people in and seeing how much time people are waiting for, stuff like that. And then seeing if we're doing the right thing. We always want to, you know, under promise and over deliver. We don't want to tell somebody, hey, your car's is only going to take 15 or 20 minutes. Meanwhile, it takes 3 or 4 hours. You know what I mean? I'd rather tell them, hey, it's going to take 2 hours and we get it done in an hour and 45 minutes. Now, you know, someone's level expectation is here, you know, and then we exceed that, just going, hey, you got that, you know, done with.
It's the communication, setting expectations correctly so you can deliver to a promise that you made. So
yeah, I know growing up in this store primarily.
Yeah, you worked here for a couple of years, right?
Yeah, for probably 8 years. But I know that one thing that you've always said is that being in the general manager position, your job is to manage people, and that it's you don't necessarily have to be the best at the service department or the sales department. You may not have been the best sales manager, the best service manager, but your job is then to manage them and make them the best that they can be. You know, they have their expertise, but you have to corral all the managers so that they work together.
That's the hardest thing. Yeah. It's making money through other people.
And I think me and you talked about this, and I said some of the hires you've made lately have drastically changed the store and been some of the best hires in our whole company with over 600 plus employees. And I think just from what I've seen growing up, is some of the key hires have been like astounding. I told you that during the holidays, I was like, two really key people can change and elevate you to even better levels. So I think that goes into a big part of it, and also your responsibility is to find the right people. It's not easy to do. You can make mistakes. I mean, we all make mistakes hiring people that don't work out every day. They're not the right fit, or we failed them at the same time. But I think that's really just where
He's a grinder. I mean, he's got, I'm sure in one of these drawers you have a file for a technician that you've been courting for the last 5 or 6 years, and it finally works out. For that part, you don't give up. Yeah.
Well, look at Matt, our service manager, service director, right? Here's a technician, right, that saw things that were going on. And that was probably the hardest thing for me ever to do, was because to let that person go, because we were friends and stuff. But then again, you got to separate friendship with business. But here's a guy knows nothing about managing, but he had passion and he had enthusiasm. And I'll never forget your dad calling me up going, "What are you, crazy?" He goes, "He can't handle that shop." I says, "Dwight, don't worry." I says, "I'm going to teach him everything I know, and I'm going to be down there every day with him." And
For about a year.
right? Yeah. And here he is 10 years later, you know, and that's something that I'm very proud of. Huh?
He's a very quick learner.
Yep, very quick learner.
And I think he realized, we have all these other stores. Let me contact these guys. Like, they'll teach me. And that's one good thing about Healy. It's not just one store you're stuck in. Like, you have people you can lean on outside to help you and assist with certain things, how to set certain things up. And I think that drastically helped. He was more open-minded to that. Because he's like, I can't do this on my own. He has you and stuff like that, but let me get a different person.
Well, he leaned on all the other service managers. Nikki's dad, John, who was running Poughkeepsie, right? So he leaned on him a lot. And just by talking to the other service managers and stuff, he self-taught himself as well, too.
Yeah, I think some groups, too, you hear like they're so competing against each other, they don't want to help. Like, yeah, we compete. Numbers matter to us, and we want to do the best we can do, but there's not one person always helps.
But we're all Healy.
Right. There comes a time that you got to help the whole, and that's.
Because the way one store gets better, the other one's going to get better too.
Well, it's like how your dad gave me up. He was just telling me that story. He goes, "I was nuts to give you up." He goes, "But I had to do it for my brother and for the whole of the company."
I don't think it was always like that. We've evolved, as a corporation. Yeah. And over the last 10 years, I think that's drastically increased for us. Seeing it as a whole entity and not these segmented 8 stores.
We've done a really good job getting some really good leaders in place. And I think that's just all you guys together seeing there's really not a weak point there. They all understand it. You understand the Healy brand and what we offer, what we're about, which is like awesome to see you guys wear it on your chest every day, which is amazing. So a couple things I want to talk about. So you want to touch on some of your big wins and losses as a general manager?
Jeez. Big wins and losses. Well, I would say wins is, was Matt. We've hired, again, it takes a lot of persistence because some of the people that I've hired weren't looking for jobs. I heard of certain people and that's why I was very good at selling cars, because to me, persistence outdoes resistance. And a no to me is a yes, and if I keep getting a no, I keep going, okay, I'm going to get a yes, and I'm very persistent. But and you're talking about the 2 hires. Yes, that took a lot of time and a lot of persistence on my end. I'm kind of proud of that. Matt.
Well, we're all thankful for those 2.
Yeah. And Matt was one of our success stories as well. Believe it or not, James Barrett worked. Actually, I was his first general sales manager because James was a salesman at Mitsubishi. I asked John and I said, "Hey, do you got a salesman I want to grab as a sales manager?" He goes, so then James worked for us for a little while.
The F&I, right?
Nope. First started as a sales manager, and then he went to F&I.
And then I think he had a little stint of trying to be owning a pizza shop, and then he came back to the company.
Yeah, he's all upset about that because if you look at the length of employment, he's not where he wants to be because he had that little stint where.
Yeah.
Well, because it was it's during the 07, 08 time when things were like dealerships were closing up and business started to shrink down. And he was like, I'm going to go into the food business. I'm like, all right, go ahead. So he did,
So we grade a lot of people on their wins and stuff like that. But I'd like to hear some of like I mean, a failure is still a win because you're learning from it and growing from it. But what are some of those that you went through as a general manager? Or growing through the business?
I mean, when you talk about wins, was finally convincing his dad to spend $13 million on this place. And him and I had, we used to call it the 3 o'clock in the morning epiphanies, like going, oh, geez, we got to do something, and I wanted to spend this much money and his dad wants to spend that kind of money. But, I'm very proud of this place because I think we thought out every little angle that we possibly can, especially the shop. Talking about footsteps and how many, how much time it's going to take a technician to go from a parts counter to their lift, and how long it's going to take for them to get actual parts and
Truck shop part of it, the service tribe was very thought out. So let's talk about some of the failures. Yeah, we have to have some along the way.
Well, I mean, it's just it comes down to people. People that you think that interview well, that don't turn out to be as good as I would say those are probably the failures, because sometimes you think to yourself like, hey, did I give 100% effort to this particular person? And sometimes as managers, we judge ourselves on our intentions, others judge us on our actions. I may be thinking I'm training the guy right, and I'm probably failed at that. And sometimes you got to learn from that. Like, hey, did I give this guy the proper training? And sometimes, you get sidetracked and you think that you're doing a good job, but you're really not.
We've seen success when something like that happens, and then we take that employee and we know that employee is good for the corporation, and we say, hey, I really think you should give him a shot. John, he might fit your managerial style better. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't work. They get the second shot, but that's another one of your sayings, is that people don't quit jobs, they quit managers.
Yeah. I think that's true.
And it's true.
It's definitely true. Yeah.
Obviously, unless they're moving or something like that. Yeah. But a lot of it's like, I think sometimes even just hiring anyone, it's like sometimes you feel like you failed them. They had such good charisma, they have good leadership, but they just need a little guidance, and either they didn't understand how you're giving them guidance because they think and do stuff differently. It's hard because you put so much effort into that hire and it just doesn't work out. But something you learn from, you understand that person, that type of person a little better for the next hire. So that's great. So before we finish up here, I want to talk about, I know you're big on this, and we just went through Dave Anderson training, and a guy that you love. I've read a few of his books. I thought he did a great job, and I thought his style of really giving us the leadership there, more than just sales training, was eye-opening for a lot of our people. And sometimes you got to give an employee a kick in the ass a little bit to get them going. So how big is your focus on leadership and culture at your store here at WS?
Well, I always feel that you don't want to ask somebody to do something that you wouldn't do yourself. The only thing I don't know how to do is I could somewhat fix cars as far as mechanically, but I could sell them. I can do anything. Pretty much all aspects of the business. But I'll never forget when we had our flood in Goshen. We had 4 feet. We had 4 feet of water. Do you remember when I panicked and I grabbed you guys? I called you guys up.
Pushing Brian's car, floated in the water.
My car literally floated and hit the building.
Yeah, I was pushing it.
I called you guys up and said, quick, we got to, you remember all that. So anyway, so we had probably 6 inches of mud in the shop, and we had the shop closed down and whatever. So I told the service manager at the time, I said, hey, go rent a couple power washers. Let's start power washing or whatever. So I was grabbing the power washer and I was power washing the floor, and 2 of the techs walk up to me going, what are you doing? I go, what? He goes, why are you doing that? I go, I'm going to do it because I'm going to expect you to do it. So how can I tell you to do it and me not do it? And you know what? And one of the other guy watched me say that, and he goes, you know what? That's George Washington leaning from the front of the boat instead of on the sidelines, And to me, that meant a lot. And that's one of my things that I always feel like, you know what? If we're open on a Sunday, if we're here on a holiday, I'm going to be here as well, because I don't want to be here or not be here and expect my team to be here. So that's kind of my thing.
Yeah, one other example, like my dad, he's a big proponent, like he wants a perfect looking facility. So he'll go outside, if there's like something, he'll pick up the garbage. When a new employee was like, the hell is that guy doing? Like, didn't even know it was my dad. Yeah. And he said in the video, without even telling him, he goes, that guy, he will go pick up garbage off his own lot and bring it in, and he has no business like ever how to do it, but he cares that much, and he wants to show like, hey, if there's something out there and the customer sees it, it looks bad in the facility. So those little things you might not think, but psychologically that employee's like, wow, I'm working for the right guy. Those guys care that much about these little details, and that they need to lead from the front as well. So that's awesome that you did that.
Well, so Dave Anderson learned to leading from the trenches. That's everything.
Well, you see it, and like you said, customers see it too. That same thing happened to me. I'm picking up cigarette butts out here.
Oh.
It's probably like 2015. I'm in khakis and a blazer, and I'm out there in the middle of summer, and a customer, an old gentleman, he's probably in his 70s or even 80s. But what are you doing outside? Picking up cigarette butts in that jacket? It's because they don't. It's appearance is everything. We got to do it. Shook my hand afterwards. Bought a car. It was great.
It is great.
I mean, and the more pride you take in that kind of stuff, it goes so much further. And your brand's on the building. Like, you have to care about it, and like every little essence of it, whether it's a paper towel on the ground in the bathroom, people notice that it matters, and goes a long way. So let's wrap this up a little bit here. I really appreciate you being on it. What's one thing you would tell an employee trying to grow in our organization to one day maybe be a partner or general manager or something like that? I know that was some hell of a journey. It's very few that really can get to that point coming from how far you've done it. And then also, on another note, if someone looking to get into the Healy organization, what would you say? So let's start with point A. If someone looking to grow from the bottom to the top in Healy, what would you say?
Well, a lot of people, I don't know, it seems like sometimes people don't want to be patient. People want things instantly. You know, what I found out is you got to pick a company, first of all, that your values are the same as theirs, right? And you want to stick with that company. Don't bounce, because a lot of people think like, well, geez, I'm a salesman now. Oh, I'm going to go work for X dealership because they're going to give me a sales manager's position. Well, that doesn't mean you're going to be great at it as well. You know, what I learned with this company is you do things that are not asked of you and prove that you can make those changes and you can do those things, because then someone recognizes what you're doing. And that means a lot, because all of a sudden they'll know you can go TO a deal, you can go close a deal, you can sell a warranty, you can go plow snow or operate a machine or whatever it is. You always want to do things above and beyond, because you don't want to be like, well, how much are you going to pay me to be a sales manager? It doesn't work that way. You go prove that you can do it first, and then if you're working for a good boss and a good leader, he's going to recognize that, and he's going to say, hey, this guy, this woman is the next person for this position. That's the one thing. They gotta.
The Dave Anderson playbook right there is challenging yourself to do more than just your job duties that day. So absolutely. I literally just read that to the social media team today of challenging yourself to do those. I mean, that's very well said. So it's possible. I mean, there's guys all over this, from Matt Noviello to you to growing up, and from here to general manager partner. So it's awesome to say. So now what would you say to an outsider, say someone that's a salesperson that wants to move into the Healy organization because they see the potential of the growth of Healy, or them becoming a manager one day, or a service advisor coming over, or a technician? I know technicians are so hard to come by, but what's the difference? And what would you tell them trying to come to work here?
Jump in. Join the team. You know, the thing is that, again, you know, if their values are very similar to ours, then that's what you want. You know, especially me, I don't want to bring somebody on that, you know, if I know that, you know, they're not honest, they're a little shady. Nah, they're not going to work here. Not for me.
Even if they're good performers.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You know, you got to be able to respect the team. You got to be able to work with other people. You know, we're all competitive, but what's good for the whole team is that's what you want. You want team players, not, you know, there's no, what do they say? There's no I in team. Is that what they say? Right?
Yeah, my dad would say, but there's me, as a joke. But yeah, I mean, that's so true. And then there's no point, like, if you want to fit the culture and learn too, like, even if you don't know everything, but you have good charisma, you really have a good work ethic, and you really want to learn, like, you're a great fit for us too. Like, we'll teach you the ways. We take the time to do that. It's not like, hey, if you don't know the car business, like, see you later. Like, some of our best employees came from the restaurant business and turned out to be spectacular. So there's so many different ways, even from any industry. I think you have an advantage here, and also you can make a great living. There's 650 plus people that make a great living here, so it's awesome to say.
Well, the other thing is too, you know, you got people that they got to look at this not as a job. You know, what really bothers me sometimes is when I interview salespeople, and they're like, well, yeah, you know, I'm going to school, I'm doing this. Listen, you either got to choose, go to school, Go do what you want to be. You want to be a medical technician or whatever it is. This business is not an interim business. You got to come in here and you got to commit that, hey, I'm going to be an automotive professional, and this is the path I'm going to take, because you got to run it like it's your own business. And I'll never forget. This guy's name was Rick Doherty, which was the guy that hired me many moons ago, who was the GM of this store a long time ago for your dad. Sweetheart of a guy. And you know, Rick one day said to me when I was first started as a salesperson, he goes, "Hey," he goes, "you ever want to own your own business?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I was running my own detail company." He goes, "Well, look, this is what I want you to think. This desk is yours. That phone, that's yours. Okay? This business is yours. I'm just going to pay the heat. I'm going to pay the electric. I'm going to pay the air conditioning. I'm going to pay for the advertising. Okay? Everything else is your business." And I went, "Oh, wow." And literally ran with it. And that to me was the thing that probably made me figure out that this desk was Lou Roselli Motors. And that's how I handled it, you know, and I wanted to be successful.
It's that drive, Lou. You got that drive. It's still in there, too.
Still in there, yes.
Still in there.
I know. Your father's like, "You're still competitive." I go, "Well, have I changed?"
It's important to me. So, Brian, anything else for Lou?
No, just how expensive was ink when you were using typewriters back then? There's been a huge evolution, you know, of
How has that been? The technology evolution since you've been here. You were writing on paper and pen. I'm not trying to be rude, but you were.
you know, doing the Sunday ads, and I mean, shit, back then there was yeah, that's what I'm saying. There was the classified ads and searching for used cars on people's classified ads and stuff. I mean, Yellow Pages existed. I don't even think the Yellow Pages is still a book these days.
When customers come in to do a factory order, we used to take the yellow pad out. And then you had the book, the binder, which I still have probably a couple of them right there.
You love your binders.
And you literally sat there and wrote down every code. And then you had to put that in there. And it's just amazing how today, you know, everything's obviously so automated. But yeah.
It was either Buick or Oldsmobile.
It doesn't hamper you at all, though.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, things are still, I'd say, difficult with the American brands as far as how you can factory order something and the customization, but they've at least gotten a little bit better. You know, back in the 80s, you could have 64,000 different combinations on how you could order a car, and it was.
You're also
wasn't
flipping
easy.
a coin whether it was going to be right or not, because
Yeah.
it was so delayed. Like, you're sending it.
And they would build it. GM would build it. They'd build cars without seats. I ordered a van once without a passenger seat.
That's great.
That was funny.
I mean, you've seen it all. I mean, you've the
Yeah,
whole
been through it.
business, understand every position. So
Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to like, comment, hit that subscribe button, and follow us at Healy Brothers on all social platforms.